You guys, he is a city commissioner for this city that you are in. Please welcome Steve Novick! Thank you for being here, Steve. Here, right, there you go. Sorry about the monologue. I said some things.
Well, I think it wasn't our fault that the sewage got in the river. That was cities upstream from us.
Yes.
We're doing just fine. Blame Clackamas, as usual.
Actually, the thing you just said about Clackamas is awesome because it's not super politician-y.
Some of my best friends are Clackastanis. I should say that for the record.
Townies? So this is one of the things that's so cool about you is that you say funny things and you're not... How is it that you manage to be funny in public and like talk about things honestly and still run for office? That seems like they should be opposites.
Well, first of all, I'm not that funny. But actually, I mean, I think that some people in politics are convinced by the pollsters that they have to calculate every word and like remember each poll when they say each thing. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that that doesn't really matter very much because most people, they know they'll disagree with you on a few things, but as long as they think they agree with you on some things and think that you're being straight with them, then they're fine. So it's not really a political liability.
I mean, that sounds super reasonable. Why is no one else doing that?
Well, some people actually have. I remember in 1986, Alan Cranston.
I don't remember.
I was in California. Actually, I was living in Oakland, and Alan Cranston, this old warhorse of a liberal, was running for re-election as senator, and everybody thought this was the year he was supposed to lose to this blow-dried moderate from Silicon Valley named Ed Chow. And Alan Cranston ran these ads attacking. He would attack Ed Chow. That's pretty much all he did. But then the end of the ad was Alan Cranston. You may not always agree with him, but at least you know where he stands. And he won. And then 18 years later, I noticed that George W. Bush was running basically the same campaign, where his ads would say, you may not agree with him, but you know where he stands. You may think he's totally crazy and a war criminal, but by God, you know where he stands. And that worked for him.
Yeah, so I guess you're doing this. So you're just going with the classic George W. Bush model.
Exactly.
Your blog post that you wrote the letter to Santa. You wrote the blog post attacking the Oregonian in the style of the Seahawks
Richard Sherman, the Shermanator.
Which is what,
Go Seahawks!
Yeah. And that, I mean, that got an amazing amount of play because it was funny and not holding back at all.
Well, actually, I told people at the Oregonian that it seemed to demonstrate the continued relevance of print media. Because normally we get 5,000 hits on my website in a month. We got 30,000 in a day when I attacked the Oregonian.
Yeah.
So I told my friends in the Oregonian, at least they care.
Yeah. So here's one of the things I'm wondering about. So you're on the city council. And a lot of the time, I've noticed, it's hard for people to get really worked up about city issues when they're or read a lot about city issues when also Justin Bieber got punched at a Starbucks that day. Like it's just hard to choose that news story. So what are your things? Give us a couple, 3 things that are going on in city politics that we should care more about than we do right now.
Sexy city issues.
Okay,
sexy?
Well,
no, we're not sexy, but we should care about.
I'll start with one. I have to do this. There's a measure on the ballot in May that would take the Water Bureau and the Sewer Bureau, the Bureau of Environmental Services, away from the city council and create a brand new government with brand new elected officials just for water and sewer. And in a way, that would be great because then people couldn't complain to me about water and sewer rates anymore. Right. But it worries. I had of the Bureau of Transportation, and we have a hard enough time coordinating who tears up the streets when they're in the same government. And there's 2 different governments, that'd be a problem. Also, the people running this measure, it's a bunch of big corporate folks that use a lot of water. And my concern is if they elect their candidates, then they'll just say, okay, we'll raise the residential rates and lower the corporate rates. How's that going to work for you?
Right, and the advertising that they're doing, their talking points on this issue are the city could be corrupt, so give it to this corporate-backed new government.
Exactly.
Great. So water sewer, number 2.
Number 2 is I would like more people to know what we spend money on. I mean, the city general fund, which comes from property taxes and from taxes on business franchise fees, goes almost entirely to police, fire, and parks, and a little bit to services for the homeless, and a tiny little bit for something that I care about deeply, which is preparing for the earthquake. And recently, I wrote a memo to my colleagues saying, I think that in order to pay for some of these other things, we might have to say goodbye to the mounted patrol. And people,
Somebody hates horses in the back.
Why do you hate horses, Steve?
And I love horses. And if we had all the money in the world, the mounted patrol would be fine.
Yeah.
We get all these emails from people saying, "How dare you suggest getting rid of the mounted patrol?" And I'm like, aren't you worried about the earthquake? I mean, aren't you worried about the homeless? Aren't you worried about the other things we pay for?
How much of the city budget goes to preparing for the robot uprising?
Well, that's another problem. I mean, we had a $50 million robot uprising reserve.
Sure.
But over the last 5 years, that's been reduced to $25 million.
Yeah,
and all the international experts say that your robot uprising reserve should be at least 30% of your general funds. We've got a long way to go.
Liberals.
So we're voting against the sewer bill. We're killing the horses, and
We're not killing them.
We're gonna let them free.
We're turning them out to stuff.
On a field.
let them run on the waterfront park and
Yeah. So
out.
they can go find drugs or whatever their thing is.
all right, great. So horses. We're spending too much money on horses. One more. Give me one more.
Well, this is something maybe people know a little about. I happen to have the Bureau of Transportation, so I spend my time worrying about the fact that we are not maintaining our roads properly. We've got dangerous intersections we don't have. Rapid flashing beacons that would save people. We've got places where kids are walking to school on a busy street without sidewalks.
Right.
So one of the things that I have to tell people whenever I can is we need more money to do that stuff. And every day we delay, it gets more expensive because roads are kind of like teeth. If you don't brush and floss on a regular basis, you're into root canals and extractions.
Right.
And so we haven't had enough money to do the brushing and flossing. So we're into root canals and extractions. It gets more expensive every day.
Like on Southeast Division.
Well, Division, I mean, yeah.
This might be something that he knows about, right? There's also streets that we don't pave, which is also weird. I don't know from.
We've got something like 60 miles of unpaved streets. That's right. And of course, if we pave those, then the maintenance costs will go up. So we're really going to have to prioritize.
I like
so
it.
much more brushing
It's
and flossing.
Yeah, it's like off-roading sometimes. Like when you're in the Woodstock area and you just take a turn, and then you're just like, oh, I live here now. I'm stuck forever.
Well,
just live here now.
Actually, we did a poll recently on what people think is most important in transportation, and people thought safety and maintenance was most important. Something people thought was important but not as important was paving the gravel roads. And partly it's most people don't live in a gravel road, but also even some people who do think, well, if you pave the road, then people would drive fast down my street, and that'd be dangerous.
Yeah, but it's a city, right?
Theoretically.
So I'm gonna need to wrap this up. This is not a quick question, but so you ran for Senate in 2008.
I did.
And then against Merkley in the primary, and then
Who has been a fabulous senator.
yeah. So yeah, okay.
The man who broke the filibuster.
So, which you would have done too. Don't cut yourself short. But now, so now you're working for the city. You could have been in Washington. Now that you're working for the city right now, do you wish you were in Washington, and do you want to go back to do you want to try Washington again soon?
It's just a totally different job. I mean, I see our congressional representatives, Earl Blumenauer, Merkley, et cetera, every once in a while, and I realize they're not like interacting with their constituents on the street every day. People don't come up to them and say thank you or complain, et cetera.
Merkley's never agreed to be on my show.
Oh, I bet he will be.
You think?
I'll ask him.
Oh, thank you. Yes! Clap for that. That's so cool.
But it's not the same sort of immediate connection to constituents. I mean, they're having to go to committee hearings, hearing from lobbyists, et cetera. They're not on the street hearing people talk about, why haven't you paved my street?
And does that sound fun? Do you want to try that as well?
It's, this is a great job.
Yeah.
I fully expect to be an 85-year-old cantankerous city councilor saying, back in the old days, we knew what we were doing.
Back then, we had horses and no paved streets.
And we liked it that way.
Yeah, we're fine. So keep an eye on Steve. You don't have to tell us whether or not you're going to be still in city council in a few years, but we'll keep an eye on you, and we'll vote against the sewer measure. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
Steve Novick!